The Stonewall riots began June 28, 1969, and officially kicked off the gay liberation movement. But what a lot of us probably don't know is how LGBTQ people had been picketing, protesting, and rioting long before that first Greenwich Village brick was hurled. Although in that case, it was just an old glamour magazine with Karlie Kloss on the cover. Sorry, K-Claw. What many consider to be the first gay uprising in the United States took place a decade before Stonewall and on the other side of the country in Los Angeles. This little place called Cooper's Donuts had become a favorite hangout for drag queens, queer sex workers, and trans women who often were not allowed into gay bars and could be arrested if they were caught on the streets impersonating women. One night, the LAPD busted into Cooper's Donuts to start checking IDs to verify whether their biological sex matched their gender presentation, and just began arresting drag queens, gay men, and trans women left and right. And one gay guy was so fed up with the whole thing, he resisted arrest, and with that, everyone was inspired to start throwing coffee and donuts at the police, and a riot ensued. No donuts were thrown that we know of. On July 4th, 1965, at one of the country's first organized LGBTQ protests outside of Philadelphia's Independence Hall. Organized by the East Coast homophiles, they hoped that their peaceful picketing would better get their message across as opposed to, say, throwing donuts at police officers, although throwing donuts at police officers, I mean, it's kind of too perfect. For 5 years, every 4th of July, these so-called annual reminders demanded legislation to protect the human and civil rights of LGBTQ Americans. But the following year, in August 1966, the coffee hurling recommenced at Comptons Cafeteria in San Francisco's Tenderloin District, which, like Cooper's Donuts in Los Angeles, had become a safe space of sorts and a favorite 24-hour hangout for Black and Latino drag queens and trans women. Late one night, San Francisco cops rolled up into the Compton Cafeteria and essentially started arresting drag queens and trans people left and right, but one drag queen was not having it, and when a policeman reached out to grab her, she responded by throwing her coffee in his face, and a riot ensued. Windows were broken with sugar shakers, police were hit with purses, a telephone booth was set on fire outside, and the following night, drag queens, gay people, and other allies picketed outside Compton's Cafeteria to stand up against the brutality and harassment they constantly faced from police and the public. As a result, the documentary Screaming Queens, The Riots at Compton's Cafeteria says that this marked the transgender community's debut on the stage of American political history. Meanwhile, in 1966, a group of gay men in New York was leading an arguably more chill kind of protest called a sip-in. With press photographers in tow, the guys went out wanting to challenge a New York State liquor authority regulation against serving homosexuals booze because, of course, it would make them all disorderly, which was based on nothing but homophobia and discrimination. The crew ends up at a bar which is still in existence called Julius's. They sit down at the bar, the bartender puts glasses up in front of them and is about to take their order before the guys say, "Oh, wait, no, we're gay." To which the bartender covers the glasses. The photo is snapped, thus documenting what is quite possibly the first act of civil disobedience on behalf of LGBT rights in the United States. Then in 1967, the LGBTQ movement found its pride for the very first time after the LAPD raided a gay bar called the Black Cat Tavern on New Year's Day. And in the wake of that, an organization called Personal Rights in Defense and Education, or Pride, set up a series of protests against this kind of police harassment, and with that momentum, its small publication was rebranded to become The Advocate, which you probably heard of before, which would then go on to report on a little something called the Stonewall Riots. And history, my friends, just came full circle. Full circle. I love it when that happens.